The Jackson 5 are that rare thing, signifiers of cultural importance. They also made wonderful soul and pop music from start to finish. The Jackson clan represents a colossus in music history terms. Their exploits and successes are so vast, it would and has taken library loads of books to explain their appeal. But in fact, their charismatic pull is down to exquisite singing, professional stagecraft that defines show business, and groundbreaking productions that always kept them at the forefront of the pop soul movement. Added to that is their appeal to the TV watching teen fans, live shows that defy description on occasion, and the inescapable truth that they defined Black American music as a commercial entity for longer than anyone else. We must consider their combined total sales placed them in the Elvis Presley and Beatles category, and with frontman Michael's subsequent career and waiting in the wings Janet Jackson to come, they would eclipse all rivals with ease. Their debut single, I Want You Back, released in October 1969, sets them off as #1 hits followed in rapid succession, leaving records tumbling. Michael, Jermaine, Marlon, Tito, and Jackie were hardly puppets of the industry, either since they were schooled in old-fashioned values by their immediate family, especially Father Joe. ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There were also modernist in approach, the latter becoming Motown's biggest record, selling 7 million copies and replacing Marvin Gaye's I Heard It Through the Grapevine as a label's supreme moment. 4 first #1s. That's more history they also enjoyed and then probably endured. Jackson Mania. Thousands of fans waited for them at Heathrow Airport. Police escorts were their everyday companions. The big tours got bigger. Destiny, Victory, and Triumph. Figure them as quasi-Roman cohorts conquering territories in their wake. They played 7 nights at the Dodger Stadium in LA. Another record, 90,000 folks a night. And they evolved. When Motown tried to restrain them inside a slick bubblegum wrapper, they rebelled and embraced elements of electronica, Moogs, ARP synthesizers, and treated percussion, all quite revolutionary for a pop act in 1980. Their Motown tutors were the very best. Berry Gordy Jr. himself, Holland Dozier Holland, Dinah Ross, and Stevie Wonder. Once Michael Jackson became the man-child star of legend and birthed the moonwalk, all bets were off. Marlon Jackson's nephew picked up on that street routine, and body-popping expert Jeffrey Daniels from Shalimar refined it with MJ in Behind Closed Doors choreography studios. In 1983, with his moonwalk perfected, originally called the backslide, Michael and his brothers blitzed the Motown 25 Yesterday, Today, Forever TV special. Billie Jean and the phenomenal Thriller herald a period of pop domination not since equaled by anyone. The funny thing is, the Jacksons never won a Grammy and were snubbed by the American Music Award people, but they were with presidents and kings. Nelson Mandela, the potentates of Bahrain, and Jordan, they were after all pop royalty in their own right. And then eventually they were inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How could they not be with sales of mind-boggling proportions? The Jackson 5, the Jacksons as adults, and Michael, Janet, and siblings as solo entities all changed the known pop world and discovered places we'd never visited before. The quintessential family group came from Gary, Indiana, an otherwise nondescript Midwestern burr in the shadow of the Chicago metropolitan area. They started life hoofing and harmonizing as the Jackson Brothers and soon became regulars on the local chitlin and talent show circuit, where they inevitably bossed. They actually signed first to Steeltown Records in 1967, but that independent couldn't contain them and Motown's interest peaked. They arrived in the big time immediately, singing in 1969 and fulfilling Berry Gordy's desire to find and sustain a totally popular crossover musical act. 17 top 40 singles later, they had accomplished what Mr. Gordy required, and then some, since everything they touched turned to gold from the outset when Gordy assembled his backing of the corporation to flesh out the sounds, while Motown's team of writers and the vigilant encouragement of the Supremes, Gladys Knight and Bobby Taylor, drew them into the fold and turned them into Motown's superstars. TV specials, cartoons, and a Jackson-led black media teen boom ensured their fame grew exponentially, and their debut album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. That first album remains a cherished item and is utterly recommended, especially as many will be familiar with the hits from I Want You Back on blasted the disc to the top of the charts. Michael's later moniker, the King of Pop, is well known, but even back then, he was often referred to as the Prince of Pop. You can also find this album teamed as a double pack with a sophomore effort, ABC. That sold over 6 million copies at last count. Bubblegum soul, soft pop, funky rock, those terms don't do justice to what's inside the candy coating of the title track and the love you save. Supercharged ballads, floor-filling anthems for the young that reflected their naive energy back at them days. The Jackson 5 had all bases covered, but they also offered wonderful covers of the Delphonics, La La Means I Love You, Funkadelics, I'll Bet You, The Miracles, Come Round Here, I'm the One You Need, and Stevie Wonder's marvelous Don't Know Why I Love You. The modestly titled third album really pushed Michael to the fore, literally, figuratively, and pictorially, on the cover, where it's astonishing to realize just how young these kids still were. This 1970 disc has all the classic Motown Corporation tropes laid on densely, layered harmony, vocals, cute spoken words, interludes, and some harder edge funk backing, especially on the second Delphonics cover, Ready or Not, Here I Come, which is one of the Jacksons' most sampled moments. Maybe Tomorrow, an album that really represented the Jackson 5 coming of age and expanding their own horizons while maintaining close ties with the Berry Gordy Corporation Top Cats. A more sophisticated animal than what had come before, this record really hits the soul buttons head on during the epic tracks Never Can Say Goodbye and Maybe Tomorrow. This is probably the boys' most sampled effort, since everyone from Ghostface Killah and Puff Daddy have borrowed hooks and lines, while Isaac Hayes, James Brown, the Communards, and Gloria Gaynor have all offered joyful versions of never can say goodbye. That five-star affair is followed by the live soundtrack recording Going Back to Indiana that accompanied their 1971 ABC TV special. A moment in time and reminder of an innocent age when crossing over pop and show business needn't be considered tacky, but can be accepted as beguiling. With guests numbering Bill Cosby and Tommy Smothers and various sports stars of the era. This is a true artifact. This album sold over 2 million copies. You gotta check it out for soul moments, funk soul moments like their version of Sly Stone's Stand and Dave Mason's traffic classic, Feeling All Right. Those numbers being the meat on a sandwich containing another Sly song, I Want to Take You Higher, giving the progressive movement a foot in Motown's world. One thinks of Stevie Wonder, utterly magnificent music of my mind. This album is a significant record for 1971 and shouldn't be ignored if you're anxious to dig properly deep. So let's fast forward. We have Skywriter from 73, which featured the disco pop Get It Together, which had Norman Whitfield, who entered the production with his various boxes of tricks. But the family, after some years, they wanted to evolve. So they wanted to write and produce and control their publishing. That didn't see eye to eye with Berry Gordy, but we all knew they had beautiful songs that followed like Dancing Machine and Moving Violation. But unfortunately that would end their tenure with the Motown label. Well, now rebranded in 76 as the Jacksons. A label change and a move to Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Find the self-titled album, The Jacksons, drawing the curtain on the opening chapters and utilizing the in-demand expertise of Gamble and Huff and McFadden and Whitehead. Michael Jackson's Blues Away is significantly his first known published song, and one senses him starting to pull the strings. Now, Going Places, the album that followed the very first debut on CBS Records, they had a song on that called Do What You Wanna. Now, that was the first time I actually really paid attention to how Michael Jackson delivered his vocals. Amazing. I used to play that song on repeat all the time. Okay, fast forward. We have the hugely successful Destiny album. Now that effectively ended the boy band image for good, as disco and the new urban black American sound surmounted it all. And world tours became front page news. Thereafter, some tracks like Blame It on the Boogie from the Destiny album and Shake Your Body Down to the Ground corresponded with Michael starting to construct his solo masterpiece, Off the Wall, produced by Quincy Jones. And the rest, they say, is history. The song Can You Feel It from the Triumph album is another watershed moment, and now the Jacksons are eminently capable of writing their own words and music and hitting a far deeper groove. But to get to that point, they had to evolve from a uniquely uplifting pop soul act to something far bigger that reflected the shifting times, while a certain amount of controversy and a great deal of tragedy would ensue later on. There is no denying their charm and their global appeal. With that being said, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. My name is Gary Harrison, And remember, stay humble and stay hungry.